So Matthew, thanks for joining us on the Tech Within podcast. Do you want to tell the people a bit more about you, how you got into the industry and what it is that you currently do?
Yeah, sure. Thank you for having me, Niels. I have been in the industry for, I guess, at least 15 years. Obviously started in Cape Town, where I grew up as an AV tech, and I did a bit of traveling after a little bit of work, and then returned back to the South African events industry, and I worked for Gearhouse South Africa for several years, where I managed to grow and get some phenomenal experience and work with some incredible characters. I say characters because they all are characters. And then decided to make a big step after several years being with Gearhouse South Africa, and I came over to Dubai, where I joined Gearhouse Dubai, completely unaffiliated companies. There's a long backstory behind that. But soon after that, after joining, it became PRG, which is a global production technical supplier. That's really a very quick summary to say my path, but obviously a lot in between that.
So seeing that you're working in Dubai, how would you say the industry difference is between our standards and the standards in Dubai, and I believe PRG services pretty much the entire northern hemisphere?
Yeah, PRG is an incredibly large brand, and the benefits of being able to support each branch and each department and work together makes it a big impact. But one thing I quickly realized when I arrived here was that South Africa is still very, very on top of events. No one should at any time think that moving out of South Africa, they are going to be gaining so much more. There's a lot of creativity. There is a lot of exciting things and a lot of people who are willing to lead the events industry in South Africa. And by no means is South Africa backwards or behind in any way. I quickly realized when I got over here, it's just at the end of the day, the event is still the same. You still have the same core elements brought into the event. You still have creative people designing and production managers and stage managers putting all the same type of event together. You've got your boring conferences and you've got your exciting conferences. That happens everywhere. It doesn't change.
Now, when I started in the industry, you were pretty much one of the first people that guided me on the standards of delivery. I remember I gaffed half of my cables, and you came in and said I need to redo pretty much all those cables. How would you say is the standard of delivery? I see a lot of the new young guys, they tend to just push all the cables into the corner rather than running each individual cable like we used to do.
Yeah, it's down to basics that are still very important, and it's still important for seniors to lead by example and get on your hands and your knees and do the cables as well, and prove to the new guys that it doesn't matter who you are, you've got to do it right, and you've got to do it right first time. You know, the core basics of labeling your cables correctly and allowing it to be clear as what it should be, and of course putting your cables down correctly is going to make your get out a lot faster, and to be able to get out of work and go home and relax is got to be top of your priorities when you're thinking about these things.
Yeah, one can pretty much say the way you load in is the way you load out. So it all starts with the load out process in mind when you're loading in.
Yeah. Now, in terms of the standards, between South Africa and many other countries that I have had experience with, you get different types of people that come from rock and roll backgrounds that don't inherently have that kind of specific training, that corporate training, which is very, very, very important. In Dubai, it doesn't matter what type of event you're on, it is considered a high-profile event and corporate levels. You cannot just be treating things as a rock and roll event here. It doesn't matter who your band is on stage. Things have to be neat and have to be tidy, and you have to, you know, your soccer pexes as a lighting department, you know, your fly cases tipped in the right place. You know, it's got to be treated correctly and professionally.
So currently you work as the head of video for PRG. What does that job
Yeah.
entail?
A lot of jumping through hoops.
More, I guess it's a bit more than just the rolling of cables. A lot more of the planning aspect.
Yeah, correct. Heavily involved in supporting our project managers and our account managers and salespeople with the quoting process to make sure that the right equipment is offered to a client, and giving supportive information and documents in that process to make sure that the client understands how we've got to that procedure, to that end result. But there's a lot of expectation for me to be a lot more than that. I'm not just sitting at a desk, as although sometimes it can happen many hours. I'm still on site. I'm still assisting project managers when they cannot be on site, and assisting other departments as well. There's still maintenance that needs to be done, and prep work, and trucks need to be loaded and unloaded. And these days you can't be choosing to sit in your desk on your own and waiting for someone else to do it. You have to be leading from the front and showing everyone what needs to be done.
And with that being said, after the COVID-19, has your events industry on that side started up again?
I wouldn't exactly say started up again. We as an industry worldwide are all in the same boat. It's pretty dismal. There's a lot of concerns for a lot of my friends who are freelancers, not just locally but worldwide. Things are tough. We're fortunate as a company to have had some successful bids recently, and a bit of positivity, but it's a long mountain that we need to climb. You know, there's the tip of the mountain isn't in sight yet, and we've got a lot of long way to go for the correct results to really be where we were at the beginning of the year or last year, where it was completely different. This was the center of the globe for events, and the boom was benefiting every single company and every single freelancer that had anything to do with the region. It was incredible how the business was skyrocketing, and then the floor just fell out from beneath everyone's feet.
Now, if you have to think about events that you've done, what would you say would have been some of your best events?
It's a pretty difficult question to answer, Niels. It's a lot of events in many years. I think I probably should have had something prepared for that question. But yeah, result. Give me a bit of time, and I'll come back to you with an answer for that.
How do you see the technology being progressing in the AV industry?
Specifically with video, it's a constant fast-paced change. You know, it's not a change, it's a development, it's an improvement. It's just growing constantly. There's some incredible minds in this industry that make the ability for the pace of video technology to grow dramatically. When it comes to all the elements where you're talking about cameras, LED, projection, media servers, it's an incredibly fast-growing community, and also some fantastic supports. Guys really do help each other out there, and willing to guide each other in growing the industry as well. Technology in this region is also well accepted for the scale events, whether it's a small or a large event, we have access to some incredible technology.
Yeah. If you think like 15 years ago, it was pretty much projectors and basics of LED. Nowadays, these days, your lighting technicians, they tend to run the media servers because it integrates with their consoles. So
Yeah,
would you say you now pretty much need to go multidiscipline?
yeah, there are people that are able to be multidisciplined. It's still a rare bunch. On the same note, it's video engineers taking control of lighting consoles, or the media server taking control of the lighting console or the lights, and you know, having a complete system integration and triggered all from one location, which, you know, just gives a much smoother triggering for an event. Queues are all lined up, and can be very powerful regardless of who's operating or triggering. It's all centralized, which I'm a big fan of myself. There is still so many areas in each field of AVL that, you know, people still have to be specialized in one of those fields, and you can't be everything and everywhere. There's a lot of information to try and retain and be on top of constantly. So there will always be specific niches for somebody to control.
And then where would you, if you have to speculate, where would you see pretty much AV going in the next 10 years or so? If you look at the rapid expansion of where AV was 10 years ago to now.
Yeah, it's quite hard to really determine with, you know, if we look at something like an LED product where the pixel pitch has got so small, where can that go? You know, there's a limit to that. What is going to be the next technology is really what we need to be exploring. There's a lot of focus on extended and augmented reality and tracking cameras, that has grown significantly in the cinematic world and been brought into the events world quite a lot in the last few years, and grown dramatically this year because of the ability to host people in a augmented or extended reality world.
With that actually in mind, if you have to think COVID-19 and events, do you think augmented reality would actually become a more like, they're already presenting visual or virtual exhibitions and stuff? Do you think the augmented reality would expand?
It does have a long-lasting footprint. It's going to be around for a while, but people still need events. People still need to network. They need to be in the presence of each other and have conferences or concerts, exhibitions, festivals. That's never going to stop. But what we are starting to see is how our clients are wanting to incorporate both of them into events. To have your extended reality studio linked with a large award ceremony or launch.
Yeah, I think pretty much if you have to think about it, I would actually say that mapping became the start of the augmented reality.
Yes, there's a way you could look at that. I don't think people are taking map into account when talking about AR or XR at this moment. It's but to be able to extend the projection on a building to change what a building can do and look like, and give that wow factor. Yeah, that has been phenomenal growth, you know, for the video world, and a lot of hype around building mapping for quite a few years now, and it is still, you know, an important part of our industry. There's still a lot of it happening. We get some great concepts. Just recently for Saudi National Day, PRG as a group pulled off a phenomenal building mapping in Saudi Arabia. And so their technology is not disappearing anywhere. There's still a lot of demand for it.
Yeah, I think if you have to think about the scale of events, the Northern Hemisphere, they can cater for events up to 100,000 people. Where here, I think our maximum event would be 20,000 for a single event, unless you're looking at a concert or so.
Yeah, festivals can across Europe definitely take that kind of capacity. They can be doing that for a single band, where you can have over 3 or 4 nights. You could be having 100,000 people per night just to see one band, and that's not a band you would have heard in South Africa either. And festivals are happening constantly. Well, under normal circumstances, festivals are happening constantly across Europe of the summer period. And whether it's a small or a big one, then they get great turnouts. Corporates are always going to be there, getting good crowds, and that's where the real money is. Where you can really grow as a company is if you have good corporate base, good income from that.
Yeah, I had a friend who used to refer to it as corporate. You almost need to think of it as a way of corporate theater, rather than just a presentation on a screen and a desk by PowerPoint.
Yeah, absolutely. You gotta really keep your audience engaged in the corporate world in the presentation stage. Otherwise, it's just going to be what they could have seen any other year. The corporate world's got to be interactive and creative.
And then run us through what would be in your tech bag as an engineer.
Well, probably too many rolls of PVC left over from previous events. Tape measures, laser measures, some binoculars, harness, hard hats, your adjustable spanner, some Allen keys. Definitely my Leatherman, although that's not going to be in my tool bag. That's probably going to be on my hip, the fastest thing you can reach. And lux meter is pretty important. If you're a projectionist or a lampy, always good to have a lux meter around. What else? Yeah, most importantly, a hammock, because there's always a lot of sitting around and waiting around.
Or that late night load in with, or load out, or late finish, and then early morning load out. Might as well clip in under the stage and have a quick snooze.
Yeah, exactly.
And then if you have to give advice to anybody that wants to come into the industry and become a AV tech and move their way up the ladder to an engineer, what would you say is like your 10 points for somebody?
You gotta realize that to be in our industry, it's a lot of hard work, and to start off, you've got to sometimes start a little bit lower than what you thought or think you would really be at. You've got to show a lot of respect. You got to shut up, and you got to listen and watch from the people that have been in the industry for longer than you. Take their advice, see how they act and react, and think with your head, not with your ego, or speak before you think. And there's a lot of good material online these days to be able to really learn and study a lot of different areas of our industry. But don't be afraid to ask the seniors that have been around for longer. Some of them might be hesitant at first to share that knowledge, but you're going to find the right guys that are quite happy to teach and share and bring you into the industry. When I was back in South Africa with Gearhouse, I had a lot of involvement with the Gearhouse Student Academy. and where I know Lisa Smith has just recently departed from, but I tried to assist her a lot in helping the students that came through that process and finding key unique people that fitted into the video world, and really grew and absorbed and took some of those words that I've just said and have taken that as to themselves to heart. I'm not going to pull out a few names. Those people know who they are. There really are some quality people that came out of that student program while I was there, and I'm sure many more that came out after that program that have those same ground rules.
And then if you need to think about gear that you've used, I assume, like if you say the last 15 years you've been in the industry, what would you say was the best adaptation to new gear, and what is the best gear that you've used? Like media service wasn't really something that was used back in the day.
No, not back in the day. And I think I've been fortunate enough to work with a few different fields of specifically the video department, where each field in video is so large and so in depth, whether it's LED, cameras, projection, media servers, screen management, and I've got my love in all of them. And whether it was cameras and camera directing, where I was kind of initially, I just was kind of pushed in that direction, I found a love for it, for calling cameras, for finding those shots, and I have had a lot of success and a lot of compliments from the work I've done over the years, and it's become a passionate. But I still love projection. I love screen management. I love they each have their pros and cons. The Spider units and the Barker E2s, I love them both. I predominantly use E2 screen management and S3 screen management these days. And media servers, they've all grown significantly. Fortunately, we have a lot of time using disguise servers, whether it's the 4x4s or the GX2s or any of the other range, and they have made one of the biggest impacts on the industry for quite a few years. They're developing some phenomenal technologies, and the way they are developing and taking on and integrating into their own hardware is really groundbreaking for our industry, and does make a lot of things very easy to do these days.
It is quite interesting, me being a noise boy per se, and seeing how we've evolved as an industry with technology is quite a big feat, if I can say so. If you think, if you look at the Lampiesfield many years ago, they started with gels and parkans, and eventually moved to techno beams with mirrors as movers. Today, the entire light moves. So
yeah, don't worry, we still see those parkans flying around on sites.
So, for what purpose would that be? For general light, or?
Yeah, you know, there are requests, and God knows to delve into the mind of a lampy is beyond me. I don't think I could ever try and do that.
So, talking about that, with the integration from like the grand MAs and media servers, how would you say that integration has been working?
I think it's been something that's been happening for quite a few years, even longer than when I became here. Many years that people have started to use lighting consoles to integrate with video, and to synchronize with lighting as well. It's the ability to quickly use a fader or a trigger or a cue, and line up content to be displayed either on the projection surface or on the LED surface, and have a truly synchronized, if necessary, time-coded show.
Yeah, that's something that isn't so often used in South Africa as time code. Um, it's more used in the theater environments.
Yeah, it happens a lot on large scale events where you want your automation, or lighting and video, sound to be all cued together and to be perfectly synchronized. You don't want one element to be a few frames behind, and you will recognize that in a show. I think in South Africa, and not just South Africa, in many places where events are really pushed out the door quite fast, whether from a technical production company or just a production company itself, where it's more focused on the quantity of events you do rather than the quality. Then sometimes those important factors are left behind, or there isn't time to integrate or deal with. It's just down to the skills of the operators on a show to make sure that they are communicating together and triggering as best as they can over a call from the show caller.
What is on your cards for the next 6 months or so? Any big events planned or?
Yeah, we currently are quite far into a UFC series where we have some of our crew who have been locked onto Fight Island in Abu Dhabi, where they've done several fights already and they've got a few more left. And that's been fantastic for us as a company to have this. And we expect UFC to be happening more in the region next year as well, which we hope to be able to be involved in. And we're also very fortunate to be involved in the UAE National Day, which takes place on the 2nd of December. But the build process will be starting at the beginning of November with a quarantine period before that for all people involved.
Yeah, I think that's actually quite a good idea for events going forward, especially big events. It is pretty much a quarantine build-up, if you can call it that.
It does bring its own pressures and stresses, where sometimes we are expected to have double crews, so they basically want a backup for everyone in case they do fall ill at any point and have to be removed or put into an exclusion zone. And even on top of that, an additional load-in crew, and we're having to fly people in and out of the region, which under normal periods would have happened quite easily. It is harder now. The freelancer, if we're flying, for example, out of UK, once they finish here, they need to go back to a 2-week quarantine in the UK, and not everyone wants to be doing that. Another example is some of those freelancers have had to take completely different work at the moment to get any income, and they don't want to sacrifice that right now for a single event. So to be able to get access to the right people right now is trying and testing on us.
Yeah. So Matthew, thanks for joining us. I don't know if you've got any last pieces of wisdom that you want to share with the people out there.
I think, talking specifically to the South Africans out there is a great, wonderful world of events, and I really would love you to all take some time of your industry, of your experience and your future, to spend some time working with other internationals in other countries and take that experience back to South Africa. I've been away for 6 years now, and I do look to return to South Africa and to Cape Town. I don't know when it's going to be, but I plan to bring my experience back there and continue to grow the industry. And I think everyone should take the opportunity to at least do a year or two, even if you've got a family. Take the risk, do something exciting, take your family with you, or maybe take a long holiday and just bring them over for visits. But South Africa can offer you a lot, but it's important to learn different techniques, different methods, different ways. Otherwise, you might not always come across the information that you really need to grow.
I think it's a valid statement to make. One always needs to look at upping and bettering your skills.
Of course.
From learning from somebody in the industry, or actually going abroad, learning from the bigger companies.
Yeah. And then being able to bring it back to South Africa and pass on that knowledge is very valuable.
So once again, thanks for joining us on the Tech Within.
Thank you for having me, Niels.
No, it's nice to actually have somebody with years of knowledge and experience in the industry actually come on the show and sharing that with especially the new people, and then also the people that might not get the chance to see the big events or the big shows like you guys do in the Middle East.
Yeah, exactly.
So with that, I'll bid you farewell. And
thank you very much for having me, Niels. It's lovely to catch up and give me the opportunity to talk to you and your community, and hopefully you get to see some more of your streams as well.
Cool. Yeah, so the people that want to see, obviously they can follow us on Facebook. The video will go live on YouTube, and then also on your favorite streaming service, being Apple iTunes, Podcast, or Spotify, Deezer. So it will be there once this has all been edited and good to go.
Great. Thanks, Niels.
Right, Matthew. Thank you very much. Take care.
Keep well. Cheers.
Bye.